Hey, what's up, everybody? Joshua Laycock, Lifestyle Evolution. It's funny, I was chatting with someone about my videos, and they're asking what am I going to do when I get to 100, and I don't know yet. But he said, "Man, how do you see meaning in so many things? Isn't that exhausting?" And I guess in a way it can be. It's kind of the way my brain works. Um, but what I thought was interesting is there are so many people, myself included, for most of my life, who you walk through the world, you walk through life completely unaware of the important things and the parallels and the way that this thing relates to that thing and how we can learn from so much that passes in front of us each and every day. And I think it leads to a level of awareness that not a lot of people have. Being able to recognize our strengths, our weaknesses, the silly little patterns that we engage in every single day that, hopefully they move us towards where we want to be, but in many ways they move us away. But inversely, I think we we as social creatures and wanting to fit in and being programmed to be afraid of being banished from the tribe effectively, because back in sort of our earliest days as walking upright human beings, that was almost a guarantee of death. And I think that's why we sort of intrinsically try to fit in. And of course, that's not the reality not the reality anymore. Not fitting in is actually, ironically, in many ways a strength than it is a weakness. But I think what happens is that every little thing that someone says, every little comment, we assign meaning to it in a very negative, harmful way. How many times have you got a text message from your wife? You say, is everything okay? And or how was your day? And they write good. Or, hey, is everything cool? Yup. And then you start to go, wait, why didn't she say, yeah, everything's great? Why yup? What did I do? Am I in trouble? Is she upset? Did she have a crappy day? Well, I wonder what's going on. And then you realize that she was just stopped at a red light and she didn't want to text. And everything's fine. I remember Kate as well had, she's got a friend who they're very close. And then every now and then, if they don't get a chance to talk as often because life gets in the way, I know that she'll say, I think so-and-so's angry with me. I think that, when we last spoke, they said this, and I'm pretty sure they're upset, and now I'm not sure, how am I going to handle this? And every single time when either she or her friend reach out and say, hey, we haven't talked in a long time, the other person will invariably go, I thought you were mad at me. And of course, that's not the case, right? We find this really weird, we assign this really weird meaning to completely trivial things, but we use that power for negative things. We use that power in a very destructive way. This is maybe going to seem silly, but I do this with my dog. And I think part of it is maybe I'm feeling a little guilty in the winter. He's not a very winter robust animal. So I don't walk him as often as I would like to walk him in the wintertime. It's just a giant pain in the ass. He's a big fluffy dog. He gets soaking wet. We always get 2 feet around the block and outside of the house, and he starts picking up his feet because snow gets in his paws. So I put boots on him, and then he complains about the boots, yada yada yada. So he's a little restless. So his behavior will change, or he'll do something different, or he'll just look at me funny, and I'll say, oh, he's sad, he's upset, maybe he's not well. And of course my wife rolls her eyes and she says, every time you look at that dog, you see something wrong, you worry, and it's guilt. And we're assigning all of this crazy meaning to stuff that is completely irrelevant. And it's a very self-destructive habit. So I think that we have this innate capacity to see patterns, to see similarities, to see meaning, to draw these types of similarities in life and to learn from them. But I think a lot of us don't use those powers for good. So I think if we're a little bit more intentional about seeking out life lessons in the world around us, if we can see how my daughter and her transition to a daybed aligns with the types of false jails that we put ourselves in mentally, I think that's important. You know, when we look at the way that our neighbors put the garbage out too early and the animals rip it apart and spread shit all over their lawn, and we can see the parallels to how, while that looks silly, we do the same things in other aspects of our lives. We take the easy route up front only to make ourselves more work on the back end. I think those are important. When a friend says, I have to cancel tonight, instead of thinking, is everything okay? I hope everything's cool. We start to go, maybe he's angry. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe he's got someone better to hang out with. All that insecure shit, it's got to go. So use this power that I've had more than a few people go, how do you come up with this stuff? I don't know. But I know that as I've personally evolved and become more aware of my interactions in my environment, and I'm observing what's going on, and I'm trying to learn from everything in some capacity, that I'm becoming better at using that power for good. It's almost like one of those like overdeveloped toddlers who are like 2 but they look 5, and they're just like baby Hueys and they're just smashing into everything, and they haven't yet learned how to channel their strength. They haven't yet learned how to use their size as their advantage. That's kind of like us in our brain, and from day one, if you go back to all the way to the beginning of my videos, even before the 100 days videos, the videos that I talk about why I even started this, it's all about an awakening, an awareness, and starting to harness the incredible power of our mind, because when left to its own devices, it can be incredibly, incredibly destructive. And if we don't challenge it and harness it and give it an outlet, well, quite frankly, it turns into my dog, who, you know, for the first time like ever in 7 years, got into the garbage the other day. That's weird. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I did it first, and then I went, no, you're just not walking him enough. You're not giving him enough of an outlet. It's like our brain. It's powerful whether you want it to be or not, but you haven't hemmed it in. You haven't focused it. You haven't paid the kind of attention that I'm starting to do. And when you can focus that energy, that's when you can start to see really cool patterns and really cool messages and stories in life, and we can learn from them, and we can start to discern the difference between something that's important and something that's just noise. It also allows you to look at life every now and then and just go, well, that's just life. That's just weird. There's no life lesson there. Shit happens. You know? So that's, I guess, kind of how I start to see these things and how I start to be able to pull. And it served me well professionally. It's obviously an incredibly powerful skill as I develop my coaching practice, being able to see parallels that people, you know, they're complaining about this or they're concerned about this, and what does that really mean and how does that relate to other aspects of your life. That's powerful. I didn't just sit down one day and said, okay, I'm going to do 100 videos, so I sure as hell better start thinking of some stuff to do. Well, I did actually. You know what? I'll take it back. I did. For the first couple days, I wrote out what I want to talk about, and I had a list. And then I found it was forced, and I found it was really stale. And then I just started to freestyle it. And, you know, some days are better than others. Some days I totally get sidetracked and lose my train of thought. But when we allow things to evolve organically, that's when the power of the brain steps in and goes, all right, we got this. It's absolutely something that anyone can do. If I had tried to do this a year or two ago, hell, maybe even 6 months ago, I don't know that I would have been ready. I don't know that I would have been capable. I probably would have seen a lot of negative correlations, like a lot of us do. So if this kind of intuition or ability to see sort of patterns where others may not interests you, I would just say start to break your brain in. You know, it's like a wild stallion running free. You got to break it in. You got to introduce it to barriers and boundaries, and you have to start to show it that you as a human being and all of what that is are actually in control. A lot of people think your brain runs the show. It doesn't. It's just one element of a complete ecosystem that is yourself, and you, whatever you are, is absolutely in control of that process. So that's all I have for you today. I don't have any deep, profound lesson. I think everything's okay with the dog. So I'm going to go do some more work. And hopefully this answers the question for some of those people who have said, how the heck are you doing this? I don't really know. It's just a byproduct of the work I've been doing, and that's kind of life right there. Is most times when we get to the end, we don't realize we're there. And I'm not there, but we don't realize how far along in the journey we are. We've been too busy putting in the time just doing the work. Have a great day. I will see you guys tomorrow.